Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of Borderline Personality Disorder. We're going to be discussing borderline personality disorder and family. Now, I don't know about how everyone else's family works, but I kind of have a lot of insight into my own. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of things of advice, and then I'm going to give you my opinion on the entire situation, and you guys can feel free to comment. Families do not realize just how much life changes when you have a borderline sibling or child. Things can get erratic, volatile, hard, and even unusually battle-like. Things tend to turn into a constant fight because you see things one way and a borderline person sees things in either black or white. There's no in between. A borderline patient sees things in black and white, which means there's either a right way or there's a left way. There is no sort of in between for them, which means when you're trying to tell me the middle of the road is purple, I'm going to tell you, no, it's black, because that's just what I see. I see two sides. There's only two sides to the story. You can see 3, 4, maybe even 5. That's someone who does not have a chemical imbalance in their brain, which luckily for them is that they're lucky enough to be able to tell the difference and be able to think in more than just two sides to the story, and they can actually think all together and measure up everything in one big whole. People with borderline personality disorder will push someone's patience and buttons to the limit, but it's hard because you can't get mad at a borderline person. It is happening just because it is just contributed to the disorder in which the person has absolutely no control over. A borderline patient does not look to upset anyone intentionally, nor do they look to bother somebody, push someone's buttons, take anything to the next level. It just happens due to their condition. Their condition warrants that they do things because of the way that they feel something or they interpret or take something in. They don't mean to hurt anyone intentionally or drive someone crazy intentionally. If anything, they actually feel bad and guilty because they have no control over what they're doing. Now, I don't know if anyone knows, but BPD is a mental illness that not only impacts you, the person, but the person with the disorder, but the entire family. It tends to affect parents, friends, siblings, and even partners and significant others. So someone with borderline personality disorder not only affects themselves, but affects everyone around them by their actions, how they feel, how they speak, how they interpret things, the things that they do, the things that they don't do, the things that they feel, the things that they don't feel. It tends to usually be a vicious cycle of going around and around and around where no one can actually say that, wow, I have no idea what I'm doing and look at what I'm doing to everyone else. When you sit back and you watch someone you love suffer from BPD, it's not the most easiest thing for any family member to do, but family members and friends find it very hard to sit back and watch someone with BPD they love self-destruct and not have any control or be able to help. A BPD person will 9 times out of 10 self-destruct whether it is good or bad in their life. It is just a force of habit. They have no other way of thinking, they have no other way of being, and they have no other way of doing, unless they are taught differently through cognitive behavioral therapy or dialectical behavioral therapy, which shows you ways to change your form and way of thinking. Otherwise, a BPD person or a unique BPD patient will lead to self-destructing. And it can get so bad that it brings them down and out and very low, where a family member cannot even bring them up and out to try and help them. The sad part is, due to the chronic stress of caring for a loved one with BPD, many members of the family tend to feel trauma and pain in which you're going through. So, despite the fact that you may think that someone who doesn't have BPD doesn't understand you. They may not understand what you're going through, but they do understand the feelings that you feel deep down inside. Whether you're sad, angry, anxious, whether you want to put your fist through the wall because you're so angry, or you want to pull the covers over your head because you feel you need time to sleep. There's always an answer to every question. The sad part is that people with BPD tend to have very high suicide rates, which scares those who care for people who suffer from BPD. Family members try their hardest to be there and keep their BPD loved ones from making the mistake that they may not be able to take back. I myself can explain and know about this because I had hit rock bottom in such a bad place that I myself tried to commit suicide and take my own life, not realizing that it was due to my illness, but just realizing the fact that I was in so much pain that I just decided to mix and match and pop pills until I felt my body just wither away, and I just thought I was going to go to sleep, but that wasn't the case. And these are the things that families worry about with BPD patients because of the fact that the pain can get so bad that you have no control over it, or the pain can get so bad that you're hurting and you don't know how to fix it, that you turn to things to commit suicide, whether it be due to the fact that you take pills or you try and slit your wrist. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone because when you try and commit suicide, that's something you can't take back. It's something you can't redo. Granted, there are people who are lucky who lived through it. I was one of them. And I'm thankful for it in a very big way that even though I was angry in the beginning, my parents were the ones who saved me. And thanks to them, I'm in what you would call the beginning stages of remission for borderline personality disorder. Now, a lot of family members suffer with guilt and feelings of helplessness because they feel as though they should have noticed the problem, or even so, they think that in some way they may be responsible for what has happened. BPD can occur for various reasons: genetics, neglect, abandonment, some form of abuse, any form of abuse, whether it be sexually abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, even emotional abuse. Okay? Sometimes it could just come from other things. You could have had a serious amount of depression and a serious amount of anxiety, and mixed together from being bipolar, you could have turned borderline, or you could have both. You know, it's not always genetic makeup that makes things up. But the truth to the matter is, if you have people in your family who suffer from depression, anger problems, mania, bipolar disorder, impulsivity, it depends on anything. If you have anything that you suffer from, it could tend to lead to an illness. On my end, I ended up with bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder, which comes with depression and anxiety and impulsivity and sleep control problems. It comes with a lot of things, and you never realize just how severe the problem can get. A lot of family members don't realize the role at how to help someone with BPD. A lot of people tend to try and be extremely supportive. Others will get angry and frustrated with the behaviors and because they can't even understand them and they just don't want to be bothered. And that's not helping. You don't help somebody by walking away from them. You don't help somebody by thinking that it's no big deal and it's alright because, you know, I can't understand you, so I can't fix you and I can't help you. You may not be able to fix somebody or help them, but you could sit and listen to them. You could sit and talk to them. You could sit and be there for them. You could sit and just want to understand them. The stress and struggles and support issues involved with having a person with BPD in the family can have consequences on both immediate and extended family members. Parents of adults with BPD describe the intense stress that caring for an adult with BPD can introduce into the relationships extreme amounts of severe, strong-minded, and fighting behaviors. You never realize just how much fighting goes on because one parent seems to understand the child more than the other parent does. And it's a back and forth battle. What do we do with her? Why is she always crying? Why does she flip out for no reason? What is her mood sense? How do I deal with her mood? What does her mood mean? You have to do your research. As a family member, if you care, you will go in depth and do your research into finding out what it means when you have an adult or a child or even a family member who is sick with any sort of mental illness, especially borderline personality disorder, because it's one of the most leading disorders that are very hard to deal with. In conclusion, I would have to say being in a family where you are the only one with BPD, which I can relate to because I am the only one in my family who suffers from borderline personality disorder, it can be very difficult and overwhelming because no one really understands you, nor do they always have patience for you, but that does not mean that you stop fighting to put yourself in some form of remission. Yes, remission. I know that word sounds funny because it's used for cancer patients, but you can put yourself into your own form of BPD remission where you can actually help yourself and bring yourself along, and you can keep fighting. And always remember that regardless of what people say, you may not be perfect because you have a chemical imbalance, and you may not be perfect because you can't always get everything right. But the truth of the matter is you're imperfectly perfect in your own life, which makes you perfect for yourself, for your disorder, for who you are. I sit here every day, okay, and I'm glad that we discussed this part, but I sit here every day with borderline personality disorder, and I wonder sometimes, are they talking about me? Do they even understand what I'm saying? I wonder what they're thinking. Do they think that I'm crazy? Do they wonder why I cry for no reason? Do they wonder why I flip out for no reason? All these things run through your head. Believe me, I'm telling you, everyone out there wonders. And everyone out there wants to know that someone cares. Your family cares. Trust me, they care. The problem is not all family members know how to help because they don't know what to do because the disorder is just so new in a certain sense that people are still trying to learn about things where the disorder is concerned. And there's only so much that you can take in and do to help a person with this disorder. I used to be the type of person who wanted to be by myself. I didn't want company. I didn't want anyone annoying me. I wanted to go out alone. I wanted to stay home alone. Now I notice a lot's changed. I'm very much more comfortable with someone being around. I'm very much more comfortable with someone going with me to the store. And that doesn't make you less independent. It just means that you as a person, mind, body, and soul-wise, have changed. And that's not your fault. There's an imbalance in your brain that is telling you that on either side where you're supposed to have control of impulses and depression and anger, your brain is not mapped up the same way a normal brain is mapped up in any sense of the word. So when you look at things, just know that we're still fighting, and sooner or later they're going to find the right treatment in order for us to be somewhat okay. But until then, you can't give up and you have to keep fighting. Until next time, have a good night, everybody.